The amphitheater fell silent as Professor Zalthor's crystalline form shimmered with anticipation. Today's lesson in comparative civilization studies would examine the tools various species considered harmless in their daily lives. The assignment had been simple. Bring an object from your homeworld that represented peaceful utility. Bella Martinez sat in the human section, her fingers drumming nervously on the desk. Beside her, Jackson Pierce grinned like he'd just won the galactic lottery. Between them, wrapped in a tarp, sat something that hummed with potential energy. "Let us begin," Zalthor announced, their voice resonating through translation nodes. "Who wishes to present first?" A Quilarian student floated forward, presenting a bioluminescent moss that provided light for their underground cities. The class murmured appreciatively. Next came a Venturi, showcasing a water-spinning device that cleaned and purified. Then a creche demonstrated their harvesting blade, a tool so delicate it could separate grain from chaff without damaging either. Each presentation followed the same pattern. Elegant, efficient, perfectly calibrated for a single, peaceful purpose. "Humans?" Zalthor's attention shifted to the back row. "You have been unusually quiet." Bella shot Jackson a warning glance. He ignored it completely. "We brought something," Jackson said, standing. He grabbed the tarp. "It's a tool we use for peaceful purposes all the time back on Earth." "Jackson, don't," Bella hissed. Too late. The tarp fell away. The amphitheater erupted. Students scattered backward. A Quilarian fainted, their bioluminescence flickering out. Even Professor Zalthor's crystalline structure cracked slightly, with what could only be described as shock. There, sitting innocently on the desk, was a steel MS-462 chainsaw, orange and white, covered in warning labels with a 20-inch guide bar that gleamed under the amphitheater lights. "That is a weapon of war," screamed a creche from the upper levels. "It's a tool," Jackson protested, looking genuinely confused. "We use it to cut trees." "You use that to cut trees?" Professor Zalthor moved closer, though cautiously as if the machine might spontaneously activate. "Explain yourself, human." Bella buried her face in her hands. She'd told Jackson to bring a hammer, maybe a screwdriver, something normal. But no, Jackson had to be Jackson. "Okay, look," Jackson began, warming to his subject. "On Earth we have these things called forests. Big forests. And sometimes we need wood for building. Or we need to clear land, or a tree falls and blocks a road. So we use chainsaws. They're super useful." "That thing," a Venturi whispered, their aquatic suit rippling with anxiety, "has rotating teeth, sharp rotating teeth, powered by combustion." "Well, yeah," Jackson said. "That's how it cuts." "How fast does it cut?" Professor Zalthor asked, their academic curiosity overriding their fear. "A tree this thick?" Jackson gestured with his hands, indicating roughly 2 feet. "Maybe 30 seconds with a good chain." The amphitheater went silent again. Bella could hear her own heartbeat. 30 seconds, repeated a Quilarian weakly. "To sever a tree." "It gets better," Jackson said enthusiastically. Bella groaned. "Humans use these all the time. We have competitions. We carve ice sculptures with them. We do artistic wood carving. There are millions of these things on Earth. Pretty much every rural family has one." "Millions," Professor Zalthor echoed, "of weapons that can cut through organic matter in seconds." "They're not weapons," Jackson insisted. "I mean, I guess technically anything could be a weapon if you really wanted, but that's not what they're for. They're for yard work, forestry. My dad used one to clear brush when we built our deck. My grandmother uses one to cut firewood for winter." "Your grandmother?" multiple students shouted in unison. "Yeah, Gran's like 72 and she's been using a chainsaw since she was 16. Says it's easier than an axe for the joints." Bella finally spoke up, trying to salvage the situation. "What Jackson is trying to explain, poorly, is that humans have different thresholds for what we consider dangerous. On Earth, we're used to working with powerful tools because our environment demands it. We have safety training, protective equipment. Can you demonstrate?" Professor Zalthor interrupted. "Absolutely not," Bella said firmly. "Absolutely," Jackson said simultaneously. "Jackson, no." "Jackson, yes." He grabbed the chainsaw. "Look, I'll just do a quick startup. No cutting. Just so you can see it's not that scary." Before Bella could stop him, Jackson primed the engine and pulled the starter cord. The chainsaw roared to life with a sound that seemed to shake the very foundations of the amphitheater. The smell of two-stroke engine exhaust filled the air, a scent completely alien to every non-human present. Students fled. Professor Zalthor erected a defensive crystalline shield. Someone activated the emergency evacuation protocols. Jackson let the chainsaw idle, looking around at the chaos with genuine bewilderment. Guys, it's just a chainsaw. Bella reached over and hit the kill switch. The engine died, leaving ringing silence. Jackson, she said slowly, I think we need to have a talk about cultural context. But it is harmless, Jackson protested, when used properly. Professor Zalthor slowly lowered their shield. Human Jackson, I believe I am beginning to understand something fundamental about your species. What you consider harmless reveals much about why humans are so formidable in galactic affairs. We just like efficient tools, Jackson shrugged. You consider something that can dismember a tree in 30 seconds to be a casual household implement, the professor said. Wielded by grandmothers. Well, when you put it that way, Bella stood grabbing the chainsaw. We'll be going now. Jackson will write a formal apology for the disruption. Wait, Professor Zalthor called. I want this in my next lecture on human psychology. With your permission? Jackson grinned. Sure. Want me to bring the wood chipper next time? No! Bella and every other student shouted simultaneously. As they left, Jackson whispered to Bella, I still don't see what the big deal is. It's just a chainsaw. Bella sighed. Humans, she reflected, would forever be the galaxy's most terrifying species. Not because they sought to be, but because they genuinely didn't understand why everyone else was scared, and somehow that made them even more frightening.